On today's episode of Phinside The NFL, we are going to be deep diving into the Miami Dolphins offense heading into training camp. We'll have a full preview of the offense position by position. Also, I will be dropping my prospect profile series, starting it up like I do every offseason, and we will be dropping 3 prospect profiles today, including Patrick Paul, Jaylen Wright, and of course Malik Washington. I'll have my scouting reports on them, how they fit in Miami, and much more. So we got a lot to talk about. Do me the favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you are new, you know the drill. Let's get into this.
Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jaylen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field down the near side, man open, touchdown! The run from Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep! He's got it for a touchdown again!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. Appreciate all of you for coming through today on this Friday as we get ready for the weekend. As promised, here we are. Training camp preview for the offense, as well as prospect profiles for Malik Washington, Patrick Paul, and of course, Jaylen Wright. So we got a lot of stuff to talk to, including a training camp centric article around, obviously, what McDaniel might need to do to alter the offense moving forward. Man, we got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. And we're going to get all into it. Now, I saw a comment in the chat asking, Reason, is the Stephon Gilmore stuff true? The only thing that has been out there about Stephon Gilmore was put out there by Bleacher Report. And they had an article a couple days ago just about like free agent contracts that the Dolphins must consider before training camp. Yannick Ngakoue, Carl Lawson, and Stephon Gilmore were like the 3 names on that list. So I think that's where your Stephon Gilmore rumors are probably coming from. On the flip side, I even had someone hit me up. Anthony hit me up being like, yo, he's got a family member that's a friend or a family member that's a Steelers fan. And, Tyreek Hill trade. And it took me 2 seconds to look it up that it was some random site just started off this rumor that the Miami Dolphins will and should trade Tyreek Hill to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So always check your sources, check what's out there, etc., etc. You got to be careful because this is clickbait season. That's what this is. It is clickbait season. They're going to try and draw you in with any little thing and any little thing of nonsense. All right? So just be careful is all I got to say. Just be careful in what you read and what you hear. All right? Shout out to everyone already in the chat, from Pro Special to Aladino Moss, Greg Sosa, South Flo So, John Featherland. Appreciate all y'all coming through. Robert Thomason. Who else we got in here? Coach AJ, what's going on? Samuel Rosa, Coke Master D, Darth Logan, what's going on, sir? 1017 Man, Jankety Jim. as well. Phenomenal Pod, Timothy Washington, Sam Peluso, who also is Sam is the one who asked the question about Gilmore. So just had to straighten that out. 99. Who else we got here? We got Aaron Anders, Jason Stamps, Nick Queck, Mikey, John West, Kiyoki Smith, Mark Brown, Ryan A.P. Big Heck is in the building. M&M. His new album just dropped. Any chance on Justin Simmons? I don't think so. Jorge Jimenez, Marlboro Man, M Cord, Q, living it up in Hawaii right now. Russell Swan, William Abadi. I hope y'all doing good. Dubs MC. Hope y'all doing good. D Hugga, what's going on? Night. Like, comment, subscribe. All love now off to sushi night for the wife birthday. Tell her happy birthday. And I'm going to tell all you, please, for this episode, follow Knight's lead. If you can donate, these are the type of shows where I implore you to donate, because more than likely with the All 22, I'm going to show. I got about like 15 minutes worth of All 22 tonight. All right. We got All 22 for Malik. We got All 22 for Patrick Paul. And of course, we got All 22 for Jaylen Wright. So yeah, I got like 15 to 17 minutes worth of All 22. I'm going to get demonetized. All right. Like that's what's going down. All right. So if you can donate, please do me the favor and donate. If you can't donate, make sure you subscribe if you're new. Make sure if you're new or not, you smash the like button to help me out with the algorithm. And also, I really never asked this. If you can't donate, share the video. All right. Going to be going to Miami when Las Vegas comes into town. I've never seen my Dolphins live. Well, me and Jennifer and Brittany at minimum will be there for that game. That's the idea. Guys, it's not my wife's birthday. It's Knight's wife's birthday. They're going out for sushi, as you can see from the chat there. So it's not my birthday. All right. So shout out to Knight's wife. Shout out to Knight. Again, a lot of work went into this video. If you can donate, please donate. If not, do me the least amount of a favor. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. 1017 Man says, drinks on me. Well, okay, I guess I'm drinking tonight thanks to 1017 Man. There you go. There you go. I guess I'm getting a little... Everybody in the club get tipsy. So, shout out to Dubs MC. Can't read, bro. My friend, you're in a live chat. I pray to God you can read. I pray to God you can read. Oh, I'm just teasing you, bro. I hope everything is doing well for you, sir. I hope everyone is having a fantastic Friday as we head into the weekend. All right. D-Hugga, I'm planning on having, look at D-Hugga. He's planning on having some drinks today. He's spreading the love. There you go. Jason Stamp says, da-da-da-da-da. You say it's your birthday. Scott Pro, anyone listening to The Death of Slim Shady all day? I checked it out when it dropped. I'm going to go give it a couple more listens. I'm kind of fed up with hip-hop fans right now. I just read a thread, I guess. I forget who did the article. But was it Billboard? It was someone like that did an article, and they had a pretty decent list of the top 10 hip-hop albums of all time. Illmatic was number 1, and people were still arguing. I'll tell you, this new generation. Fins up. Hope your family is well, and you too. Darth Logan. Don't forget, you need to be coming to that Vegas game too when I come down, right? I owe you one from a couple years ago. So you'll be at the game too, I assume. I assume ball game and everyone too. I'm still working on the finer details. All right. In terms of training camp, I'm aiming for the 6th and 7th. I'm just figuring everything out in terms of I want to have a mobile setup coming down so I can record, so I can go live those 2 days, right? I'm not going down there for vacation. I'm going down to work for all of y'all. So I'm just, once I have that all set up, I will confirm everything, and that's when I will be making moves. All right. So that's what I'm just into right now. So I'm also got my new background that I've been working on. I had to go get a whole brand new camera. And I'm just setting that up. So, you know, those people out there who tell you, hey, donate, it helps the channel grow. It helps. No, when you donate, it actually helps this channel grow. It actually gets put back into the aesthetic of this channel, continuing to bring you guys good content, etc., etc. So trust me, I'm all the people who have been out here over the years saying, oh, donate to the channel, it helps it, you know, and then you don't see a single change in that channel for the 4 or 5 years they've been going. You know, you see changes over here, you see development, you see the progress, you know. So yeah, it goes a long way. I appreciate all y'all for, you know, for supporting the channel and, you know, allowing me to do what I do. Love all y'all. I appreciate each and every one of you too. All right. So, all right. Got that Biden inflation going on. You crazy. Oh my God. So appreciate all y'all in the chat, man. Appreciate all y'all in the chat, man. If you want to listen, if you want a really good, go watch Charlemagne and LL Cool J. Now, I respect LL Cool J's position in hip hop. I'm not the biggest LL Cool J fan there ever is, but I respect what he's done. He's got a bunch of tracks I like, etc., etc. Go check out his interview with Charlemagne. He said a lot of good things. He dropped some gems. Cookmaster D, you know me and Jay Daniels have a history. Greg Sosa says fins up. Bro, you gotta, what are we talking about? Hard Knocks with the Giants here? What are we saying? Man, just dropping quotes and moving on. Oh, it's talking about Jack Daniels. It's talking about Jack Daniels. It's talking about the Jack. This is a football show, and you guys keep me out here living my life, and you guys keep me out here doing, you know, talking hip hop. We have got actual bars getting dropped in the chat. You know what I mean? So shout out, my mistake. You know, my mistake. Appreciate you. So, but we out here dropping, you know, tipsy bars. I like it. So let's I guess we can pretty much get ready to hop right into it. Again, thank y'all for coming through. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. If you haven't been watching Receiver, I implore all of you to start watching Receiver. Man, I'm telling you, Devontae Adams is unhappy. And, you know, you see Breece Hall now. Devontae Adams is on Up and Adams with K and basically said, no, you know, I'm not making the jump. Then Breece Hall is up on Up and Adams today, basically acting like he's making the jump. Speaking of K Adams, go support Sideline T. They're like 167 away from 1,000 subs. Go sub to them right now. Go show them love. They got K Adams coming on. Mina Kimes coming on. Travis Wingfield coming on. I think they got OJ McDuffie coming on sometime soon as well. So they got a lot of content. A lot of content coming your way. They're 167 away, subs away from hitting 1K. Go show them some love. You know what? Honestly, I was thinking about this. Thank God. You know, they're already doing Hard Knocks. Do we really want them in there? You know, can you really, you know, considering we were part of Hard Knocks, I don't blame them. And I think they weren't even happy that Hard Knocks was allowed in. I think they're trying to be part. Hey, Reason, here's some football and some music. Can you do a Dolphins version of Not Like Us? What, you want me to, like, do a parody version of it? Spit some bars? Your boy used to spit at parties back in the day. I used to get it in when I was in my teens. Don't worry. I need to put that K date in my calendar. When is that? They are hammering out the details with both Mina and Kay. Travis Wingfield, I think the episode drops July 20th. So a lot coming your way from Sideline T. So go support them, man. Quickly becoming the number one female-driven podcast in this space. I love it. All right, let's get into it, and let's start off the training camp preview with an article from Omar Kelly. It's training camp based, and it makes sense. It talks about Mike McDaniel altering his approach for training camp this year. So let's get into it. So what he says here is quite simple. Dolphins must alter training camp approach because of mature roster. There was an era in Miami Dolphins history not too long ago, 2019 and 2020, where the team openly bragged about having one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. It was during the rebuilding years, remember Tank for Tua, that coincided with the Brian Flores era, and the youth movement was used to justify the team's growing pains. Heading into the start of training camp, which opens July 24th with the team's first practice, the 2024 Dolphins have seemingly gone the opposite direction, building one of the NFL's oldest rosters, and that this isn't new. In fact, Miami was the oldest team in the playoffs last year with an average age of 27 years old, which is crazy to think about because you know how young that defense was, on the Chiefs, right? Of 27 years, 5 months, and 14 days. In this offseason, Miami added 6 veterans: Odell Beckham Jr., Calais Campbell, Jordan Poyer, Marcus May, Shaquille Barrett, and Sarah Neal. In their 30s, bringing the 30 and over club to 12 veterans, all of whom are expected to make the 53-man roster. Plenty of aged players were added because of Miami's cap constraints this offseason, which forced the Dolphins to target players who were willing to accept one-year deals that were cost-conscious for the team. However, that doesn't mean these mature vets aren't talented or motivated. Still got a lot to prove, especially after getting cut from another team. That adds a whole nother fuel to the fire right there, said Barrett, a 10-year veteran whom the Dolphins hope can fill in as a starting edge rusher until Jaylen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are medically cleared to practice and play. The Dolphins are going to be happy they signed me, and Tampa is going to be mad they let me go. But how much can Barrett and his fellow 30-year-olds actually go? How many snaps can they handle? One of the biggest questions the Dolphins must address this season centers on how will this team perform better in December and January games, which has been when the season has unraveled on Coach Mike McDaniel's teams the past few years. The Dolphins instituted a load management program last season, shelving the 30 and over players for at least one practice per week, and were extra cautious with players returning from injuries. Expect the volume on this approach to be turned up a decibel or two in 2024 because team sources claim McDaniel is a big believer in analytics and sports science, and those two are very clear that rest for the mature leads to better results. Raheem Mostert's Pro Bowl season in 2023, a year where the 32-year-old rushed for more than 1,000 yards for the first time in his career and set a franchise record for touchdowns, is a perfect example of this. Most weeks, Mostert was held out of Wednesday practice despite his protests, as did other 30-year-olds who were prevented from practicing. However, in hindsight, many admit that approach worked. Regardless of any type of program, whether it be Wednesdays off, if I like it or not, I just have to do what's best for the team. And that means preserving myself, which I know is important given my age, said Mostert, who became the first NFL player in his 30s to rush for 1,000-plus yards since Adrian Peterson in 2018. That's why nobody should be surprised if Mostert has a light training camp and exhibition season workload, and it's unlikely that he will be alone in the Century Village program. Part of the reason Miami drafted offensive lineman Patrick Paul in the second round is because left tackle Taron Armstead has annually worked on the side during the early stages of training camp and skipped all of the exhibition season to preserve his body. The goal is to ensure that Armstead, who turns 33 later this month, plays in every regular season game for the first time in his 12-year career. The only thing I can do is control what I control, Armstead said when addressing his durability concerns, which flared up last season because of a foot injury he sustained in a joint practice with the Houston Texans during the exhibition season, and a knee injury he sustained in October when he had a knee rolled up on in a loss to Buffalo. All the things that I've mentioned, nutrition, mobility, flexibility, strengthening, work, everything's science tells you to do, I'm putting my best foot forward. Tyreek Hill, who turned 30 in March, will likely become the newest full-time member of the Wednesday Off Club, which he formally entered late last season when he was playing through a high ankle sprain late last season. The goal is to ensure Hill isn't on fumes or fighting an injury in this season's final month like he has been the past 2 years. Beckham, 31, set out the Dolphins' entire offseason program and will make his on-field debut during training camp, we hope. He has battled injuries the second half of his 10-year career, and Miami's taking a cautious approach to his workload. Campbell will turn 38 on September 1st, days before Miami's September 9th season opener against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It wouldn't be surprising if this 16-year vet, who played 852 snaps last season as a starter for the Atlanta Falcons, sat out all 3 preseason games and was preserved for the games that mattered. He's understanding of the problems we had last year, whether it be health or just not doing the correct things that we needed to, Mostert said to McDaniel. We are just going to go out there and try to figure it out. He's on the up and up. I mean, what can you say? It makes a ton of sense. You know, we need these guys to be healthy. We need these guys. I mean, and this means more reps for the young guys, and this means you could see the growth and developmental process sped up because of the reps they're going to be getting. Who am I talking about? Jaylen Wright, Patrick Paul. There are going to be reps on the field for these guys to take, and hopefully guys like Butch Barry, Frank Smith, etc., see what needs to be fixed, how to fix it on these younger guys so we can speed up that process. Same thing works on the defense. Shaquille Barrett, Calais Campbell being on snap counts means what? Mo Kamara, Chop Robinson, etc., are going to see more time. Jalen Ramsey should be on this Wednesday off. That means more opportunities for a guy like Cam Smith, Ethan Bonner, etc. Poyer means more chances for guys like Elijah Campbell, Nick Needham and his cross training, etc. So, you know, there are positives to not only ensuring these guys are healthy for as much time as possible, but also that trickle down to other players behind them in their position that need the reps. Terron Armstead doesn't need the reps in exhibition games and training camp. Patrick Paul does. Raheem Mostert doesn't need the reps in training camp and exhibition games. Jaylen Wright does. Jalen Ramsey don't need those reps. Cam Smith does. Poyer doesn't need those reps. Elijah Campbell and Nick Needham do. Right? You see where I'm going here? So, James Steele says, reason you're the best, period. I think more people need to be positive. I mean, how are you going to stop our 21 personnel? Achane and Wright in the backfield with Jonnu and Tyreek and Waddle. You can't play man 2 anymore. Game over. And, bro, not only Achane in the backfield, what happens when you motion him out into the slot with that same personnel grouping you named? Think about that one for a second. Think about that. And I'm telling you, people are sleeping on Jaylen Wright's ability to catch the football and make plays, just like they slept on Jonathan Taylor coming out. I'm telling you right now, mark my words. They are sleeping, and this offense is going to wake them up. By the way, great article came out today about David Long from Tyler Dunn. I'm going to have Tyler Dunn on the show next week to discuss it. Hopefully, Jordan Schultz, we work things out. I'll have him on the show next week to talk, to his contract, Tyreek's new money, etc. So, got some special guests next week. But go check out that Tyler Dunn article on Go Long TD. It's absolutely fantastic. Deep dive into David Long. Y'all are going to like that. All right? Brother, I am the hype around Malik Washington. I'm the one who, before we got OBJ, was saying whether we get OBJ or not, Malik Washington is going to ball this year. When we got OBJ, I was still talking about Malik Washington. I've been talking about Malik Washington, and we're going to do a prospect profile on him tonight. I got about 6 minutes worth of all 22 for him. And then I got about 5.5 minutes of Jaylen Wright, all 22. And I got about 5.5 minutes of Patrick Paul, all 22. I'll give you my scouting reports on those guys, a little bit on their background, and how they are going to fit in Miami. So a lot of stuff coming for you in this episode, all right? We're going to get into training camp preview offense right now, and then after I go position by position, we will get into those prospect profiles, all right? So stick around, a lot coming. So let's get in to previewing the offense. Next week, we will do defense and special teams in one show, as well as prospect profiles for Mo Kamara and Chop Robinson. And if I'm in the mood, I'll throw a Patrick McMorris prospect profile in there too, okay? So let's get into it. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, help me out. These are the shows that need the help because I'm going to get demonetized because of the All-22 today. So let's get into previewing the offense. All right. Let's break into some numbers before we go position by position as well. All right. When you look at what this offense did last year, they were third in total yards. They averaged about 393.7 yards per game. They were second in passing yards, averaged 261.2 yards per game. They were seventh in rushing yards, averaging about 132.4 yards per game. They were third in points, averaging about 27.9 points per game. They had 25 giveaways, which was 21st, and they allowed 31 sacks, which was actually fourth best in the NFL. All right. Now, here's the problem when you start diving into the numbers a little bit here. Miami, when you look at their pass block win rate, they were 31st in the NFL. They had a 49% pass block win rate. That is not good. Now, run block win rate, they were actually 8th in the NFL at 72%. And I think that number would have been even better if guys like Isaiah Wynn and Connor Williams were healthy last year. I think you would have had easily top 5, top 3. So let's get into this, starting with quarterback here. We got Tua, Mike White, Skylar Thompson, and Gavin Hardison. I think they're going to carry 2 guys this year. I think it'll be Tua and Mike White, and then the other guys will go to the practice squad. But you ask yourself, is there a legitimate battle between Skylar Thompson and Mike White, or is that already settled? In terms of Gavin Hardison, is Skylar Thompson's position really that solidified? Is it? That's a legitimate question. Is it really, really, really that solidified? So, listen, I said, and it started happening during the Underwear Olympics there, I knew people would like Gavin Hardison's arm. He's pretty accurate throwing the ball deep. The problem is when you get into like the short to intermediate level, the accuracy issues arise. His decision making isn't very great when you won't really get a feel for him when the pads come on, and I don't expect people to be blown away. So really, I expect them to carry Tua and Mike White, and then Skylar as the emergency quarterback. Now, where it starts to get interesting in terms of battles is when you start getting into the running back room. Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Jaylen Wright, Jeff Wilson Jr., Salvon Ahmed, Chris Brooks. Is this one of the more stacked running back battles in training camp battles throughout the league? It's got to be. I still think they're going to try and carry 4. I think they're going to try and carry Mostert, Achane, Wright, and Jeff Wilson Jr. I think Salvon Ahmed and Chris Brooks are going to be the odd men out. Whichever ones don't get claimed will probably be trying to snuck onto the practice squad. That's how I see that going. Look at Raheem. Had his first 1,000-yard rushing season, had over 18 touchdowns. Is he going to build on that, or is Devon Achane and Jaylen Wright going to start to eat into his workload? I'm on record of saying that I believe Devon Achane will be running back 1 coming out of camp. And I think by the end of the season, Achane and Jaylen Wright is going to be the 1-2 punch they're leaning on. Now, that said, if Raheem is healthy and Jeff Wilson is healthy and they can contribute to win ball games in January, you need to run the football. And, you know, you need healthy guys that you can rely on to tote the rock. You also add Alec Ingold into that fold. With Alec Ingold, I want to see them get more back into what we were seeing in 2022. I felt like the balance between Waddle and Hill in 2022, I feel like we got away from that in 2023. Alec Ingold in 2022 looked like he was going to be a big contributor in this offense moving forward. They were targeting him out of the backfield, giving him more touches, etc., etc. Now, I get it. There's been more talent added to the fray in Devon Achane, Jalen White, Jonnu Smith. You know, Braxton Berrios was added, etc., etc. Malik Washington. I get all that. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. too. I get all that. That since 2022... more talent's been added in 2023 and 2024. I get that. But Alec Ingold can make plays for you in this offense, and the defense won't see it coming. He is our Kyle Juszczyk of this offense. So utilize him. Put him in a position to be successful. Now, when we get to receiver, at the X spot, Tyreek Hill, Eric Ezukanma, River Craycraft, Anthony Schwartz. Slot receiver. Now, depending on what offense you run, this could be labeled as F, H. No tight end on the field could be labeled as Y. I went with F here because when you look at McDaniel's playbook, they are labeled as F. Braxton Berrios, Malik Washington, Tajay Washington. And then at the Z, Jaylen, Odell, Braylon, and Jaquan Burton. Now, I could have put Jaylen or Tyreek at F and made this fit with having, you know, Tyreek, Jaylen, and Odell being the top three here. They are the top three, but I do feel most of their work, Odell Beckham, most of his work is going to come from the boundary. You know, I mean, that's just, he doesn't work out of the slot very much. Now, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle will work out of the slot more, but I still see them as the main boundary threats that'll come off motion, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Braxton Berrios, Malik Washington, Tajay Washington, those three also fit the exclusive slot role. So that's why I fit them in there too. Again, this is a fantastic battle. I mean, you know, I've got Eric Ezukanma ahead of River Craycraft. They probably have River Craycraft ahead of Eric Ezukanma in all fairness. But I think that kid's going to continue to develop, and I think this is going to be a tough, tough battle. I mean, there's an easy 7 to carry here. Tyreek Hill, Eric Ezukanma, Braxton Berrios, Malik Washington, Tajay Washington, Jalen Waddle, OBJ, which would leave River Craycraft, Braylon Sanders, Jaquan Burton, and Anthony Schwartz on the outside, added to practice squad, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is when I tell you that, even I don't know if I see them moving off of River Craycraft. Because the coaching staff loves him. They love what he does for the offense, et cetera, et cetera. This battle is going to be very... And how many are they going to carry? 7 or 6? Because 6 makes it even more complicated. Now when you go to the tight end of the Y spot, you got Jonnu Smith, Durham Smythe, Jody Fortson Jr., Julian Hill, Tanner Connor, Hayden Rucci. Now, I think this is pretty straightforward. I think if you're going to carry 3, it's going to be Jonnu, Durham, and Jody. I think Julian Hill, listen, I think what Fortson can offer in this offense, I think that's going to kind of bump down Julian Hill. Now, I get it. He's a great blocker, and it's like having another offensive lineman on the team. That's fantastic. For what we're trying to accomplish, though, you've got a guy you can trust to block in Durham Smythe. Jonnu and Jody can threaten the seams, stretch a team vertically from the Y spot if you need them to, kill teams underneath while Tyreek and Waddle or OBJ take the coverage with them. There's just a lot of, and Jody and John who offer something we haven't seen in quite some time in Miami, and that's a tight end who offers you something after the catch. Durham Smythe never offered us much after the catch. Julian Hill didn't. And Gesicki offered you a lot at the catch point, but after the catch, totally different story. Totally different story. As far as Tanner Connor and Hayden Rucci, practice squad stashes at best, I feel. When you go to left tackle, Teron Armstead, Kendall Lamb, Patrick Paul, and Byron Matos. Byron Matos obviously being the international prospect. I do expect Kendall Lamb to be the backup here. Patrick Paul is going to be developed and groomed to eventually take that spot. But I think this is Kendall Lamb's last ride. It might be Teron Armstead's last ride as a Miami Dolphin. I think those two are going to man down the top two left tackle, and that's not an indictment on Patrick Paul. Those are just veterans who have already proved they can be relied on, and it's their last ride. At left guard, this is where you start getting worrisome. Isaiah Wynn, Lester Cotton, and Matthew Jones. Lester Cotton, an underperforming option or a UDFA. And in terms of, Matthew Jones and the things he does, he's played left guard, he's played right guard, he played center, all at Ohio State, just a little over 6'3", 316 pounds. He started games for them. I mean, he started, 25 straight games in 2022 and 2023. He made second team all Big Ten in 2022 and 2023. He only missed one game in those 2 years, and that was in 2022 with a foot injury. Now he didn't start playing center until 2023. Even played in the Hula Bowl. Size-wise, he's good. You got decent movement skills as well. I see him probably getting, his hands aren't great. I don't think his anchor is very strong right now. Now, maybe that's developed during the offseason program right now. I don't know. But from the film, it's just not overly impressive. So I'm not expecting much from Matthew Jones. Now, when you flip over to center, it's just as worrisome when you get into the depth. You got Aaron Brewer, Andrew Meyer, and Ireland Brown. Again, can we rely on that depth? We were talking earlier about Bleacher Report saying we need Yannick Ngakoue, Carl Lawson, and Stephon Gilmore. No, we need center depth. That's just where we're at right now. We need center depth. You're relying on a bunch of UDFAs behind Aaron Brewer. Now, sure, could one of them hit? Maybe. But is that where we're in a window right now? Can we afford to rely on that? Can we? Ask yourself that. In this window, can you afford to rely, seeing what happened, the injuries this offensive line has sustained over the last couple of years? Aaron Brewer already missed time at camp. In the offseason program. You got to ask yourself, the window we're in, can you afford to take that kind of risk? To roll the dice? At right guard, Liam Eichenberg, Jack Driscoll, Robert Jones, and Chasen Hines. Again, now listen. Eichenberg and Jack Driscoll, that's going to be your battle for right guard. I've said that since the moment we signed Jack Driscoll. You look at the depth at center, you got to be praying Jack Driscoll wins that job and Liam Eichenberg becomes the backup right guard and center. Because, look inside yourself. Who do you want to keep on this interior? You probably want to keep Isaiah Wynn, Lester Cotton, Aaron Brewer, Liam Eichenberg and Jack Driscoll and Robert Jones. That's it. Andrew Meyer, Island Brown, Chasen Hines, Baron Matos, Matthew Jones. These are guys you want to get practice squad time, not have to rely on at one point in this season. And at right tackle, you got Austin Jackson, Keon Smith, and Ryan Hayes, who they got last year. Again, depth isn't nearly as good as it is at left tackle. And we know Kendall Lamb and Patrick Paul aren't going to move around. Now, I think Keon Smith makes this roster just because this coaching staff knows him, has relied on him and given him snaps. You know, I look at this and I don't see a way where Ryan Hayes, Chasen Hines, Ireland Brown, Andrew Meyer, and Matthew Jones make this roster unless there's injuries and they don't replace the injuries with new bodies via free agency or a trade. So, you know, right now we got to get up from that 31st pass block win rate. We got to do a lot better. And listen, if you could tell me Terron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Aaron Brewer, and Liam Eichenberg, and Austin Jackson will be healthy all year, I'm down. And here's another thing people need to think about. Here's another plate full of food for thought for you. Is Austin Jackson going to be the same player we saw last year? Or the last 2 years when he's been healthy? Robert Hunt is gone now. You know, we were okay with Liam Eichenberg trying to play left guard in between Connor Williams and Terron Armstead. And then we got Isaiah Wynn. We're like, yo, screw that idea. But Austin Jackson now has Liam Eichenberg or Jack Driscoll next to him. No longer does he have a right guard that can play at a Pro Bowl or All-Pro level. Now, he might have to elevate the guy next to him in Liam Eichenberg. Do we have faith that Austin Jackson is good enough to elevate players that play beside him? See, that's another thing people aren't talking about. Could that weak link at right guard turn right tackle into a weak link? That is a real question. That is a real question. It's one thing to Austin Jackson have to play one game or 2 games beside Liam Eichenberg, but we are going to get a full season sample size potentially. And will Liam Eichenberg and his play affect Austin Jackson and essentially bring down Austin Jackson's play from what we've seen the last 2 years under Mike McDaniel? Robert Hunt is gone. You no longer have that security blanket. Now, Austin Jackson, you have to be the security blanket for a guy like Liam Eichenberg, and they paid you to be able to do that. Is Liam Eichenberg starting permanently at right tackle going to have a negative ripple effect on that right side, because that is the blind side of our franchise quarterback? That's a legitimate question, and that is something I don't think enough people are talking about right now. So that's what the offense looks like heading in to Dolphins training camp. Man, first practice is on the 24th. Vets report on the 23rd. Rookies report next week. We're getting there, and I'll be dropping my defensive and special teams preview next week. Do the same thing for the defense, and I'll be dropping prospect profiles of Mo Kamara and Chop Robinson. So smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. We ain't done though. Let's get into some prospect profiles since we are on an offensive roll right now. So let's start off with Patrick Paul. All right. And then we're going to go one by one here into Patrick Paul, from Patrick Paul into Jaylen Wright, and then into Malik Washington, basically going in order of how these gentlemen were drafted. All right. So let's start off with Patrick Paul and let's get into it. Gotta love that visor, eh? Darth Vader over here. In the second round, the 2024 NFL draft, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel may have drafted one of Butch Berry's biggest projects yet. Patrick Paul at number 55, who is believed to be the heir apparent to Terron Armstead's starting left tackle job. I don't mean biggest just from a developmental standpoint too, as Paul stands in at about 6'7.5" and weighs in around 331 pounds, making him an absolute behemoth of a man. Paul was my number 12 ranked offensive tackle of this draft, though not only were some others in the scouting community much higher on him than me, there were some that thought he may sneak into the back end of the first round, which obviously didn't happen, but shows you what some believe may be the ceiling on this kid if he can get developed properly in Miami. One of the biggest positives during his time at the University of Houston was his knack of staying healthy. After all, availability is sometimes the best ability, which we've all learned the hard way during Terron Armstead's time with the Miami Dolphins. After missing 6 games due to an ankle injury in 2020, Patrick Paul started 39 straight games for the University of Houston. He was named to the All-AAC team twice in 2021 and 2022. Then Paul was named to the All-Big 12 team when Houston changed conferences in 2023. Patrick Paul also showed leadership qualities during his time in Houston, as he was named team captain in each of his last 2 years of collegiate play. So what does the tape tell us about him? Let's start with the positives. The first thing that stands out about him, and you can see for yourselves by the All-22 rolling here, is obviously his size. From the great length he possesses with his 36.25-inch arms all the way to his massive 86.25-inch wingspan. He knows how to use that length too when he locks out defenders. With that size comes great functional strength and power. If he gets his hands inside a defender, they are moving at his will, as he can look like a man amongst boys out there, which also even showed up a bit at the combine with his 30 bench press reps of 225 pounds. Has strong, powerful hands too that pack more pop than a can of soda due to his boxing background. What you also notice with that level of power is he has a bit of a nasty side to him too, which he flashes here and there. A defender's family tree can feel the branches shaking when he shows the will to finish his blocks. His anchor is definitely above average, and he has good bend to his lower half of his frame for a man his size. I'd also say his feet are quick, not fast, and definitely not slow, as he moves to the second level pretty well. While overall, I'd say he's a pretty good athlete for his size, moving in space. You also see a player who displays a good football IQ when it comes to IDing stunts, blitzes, twists, and all that. In pass pro, Paul only allowed 1 sack and 9 pressures last year, while he allowed 5 sacks and 51 pressures in total during his time in Houston. Now, what did the tape tell us in regards to areas that need improvement and development in Patrick Paul's game? Well, let's start with his hand placement, as Paul can land them too wide on the defender's pads, which doesn't allow him to sustain the block consistently enough, and this opens his chest up to defenders. This poor hand placement also shows up with holding calls. While it's also fair to say there are plenty of instances on his film where the flag isn't thrown, but that won't be the case in the NFL, as some of these were blatant, like bear hugs, that leave you absolutely baffled as the viewer how the referee did not call it. Yes, it is that bad sometimes. Patrick Paul also sometimes strays far too wide on his kick slide, which makes him prone to defenders getting inside him. As another thing you see a little too consistently when he gets beat is defenders winning by coming across his face. I also mentioned earlier how I thought he has quick feet, but his footwork is a whole other issue. At times it's super clunky and makes him look slow getting to his landmarks. He's also not the smoothest nor is he the quickest when it comes to his ability to recover, and based on his size alone, he tends to play a bit high with his pad level, which does him no favors in trying to win the leverage battles against defenders. So that will need to be cleaned up as well. Overall, Patrick Paul is a good pass protector who has room for improvement when it comes to hand placement, technique, and looking for work, because in open space sometimes you watch him and he just can't find the work, and you're like, bro, you need to find it. Well, he's a very good run blocker that even has more growth ahead of him in that area, just based upon the level of coaching and attention he's about to receive in the NFL. How does he fit with the Miami Dolphins in 2024? For one thing, he's a true tackle. Doesn't have ideal tools in his box to work best inside a phone booth, so I don't see him getting reps on the interior in year one to get his feet wet. Also, Kendall Lamb is a good bet to finish training camp ahead of Patrick Paul in regards to the team's depth chart. So year one, maybe a true redshirt year for Patrick Paul, which is probably what's best for his growth and development as a pro tackle. All of that said, given Terron Armstead's injury history and just the nature of football, who knows? There could be playing time and reps that land in the lap of the 2024 55th pick for the Miami Dolphins from the NFL draft, but there are clearly some areas that need to be improved on before he can not only be relied on as a full-time starter in the NFL, but also to be even considered worthy of filling the mighty big shoes of current Miami Dolphins left tackle and future Hall of Famer Terron Armstead. All right. There is just a lot that needs to be done with Patrick Paul, but I got full faith in our coaching staff that they will get that done. All right. Now, next up, let's get into Jaylen Wright. The final piece of the three-headed running back monster, Jaylen Wright. For the first time in the Chris Grier era, the Miami Dolphins traded up to take a running back in the NFL draft. Jaylen Wright was taken at pick number 120 in the 4th round after the Miami Dolphins sent a 2025 third-round pick to the Eagles to ensure they got their guy. The former Tennessee Volunteer was not only my running back 3 in this draft, but also one of the biggest draft crushes for me in this draft, making this the second consecutive year the Dolphins have drafted one of my man crushes at the position after taking Devon Achane in the 3rd round at pick number 84 in the 2023 draft. This also signified a changing in philosophy, so to speak, as not only is the running back position being taken as seriously as it's ever been during Chris Grier's tenure as Miami Dolphins general manager, but it was also the first time he's ever traded up during the draft to select a running back, and why wouldn't he? Wright has led the Volunteers in rushing the last 2 years with campaigns of 875 yards and 10 touchdowns on 146 carries in 2022, while then rushing for 1,013 yards and 4 touchdowns on only 137 carries in 2023, averaging 4 yards a carry in 2022, then improving on it in 2023 by averaging 6.4 yards per carry is nothing to balk at either, as it shows he's improving year by year without wearing out a ton of tread on his tires. When you dive into the film of Jaylen Wright, his 4.38 speed he posted at the combine, well, it flashes almost instantly, as does his willingness to work to the outside off the hips of tackles or inside up the lanes created by the interior, which he also displays the ability to get skinny to fit through holes. Oh, he was also clocked at 23.6 miles per hour in practice at Tennessee. So yeah, game speed is not an issue for him. As fast as he is, he shows the patience required to let the lanes develop in front of him, and he's also very elusive, especially in the open field. As I watched him regularly make defenders miss, he can cut on a dime and accelerate instantly with his impressive bursts in short areas and his first step. He's a legitimate home run threat when he gets to the second level. Needless to say, he moves well and shows great athleticism for a man that's 5'10 and a half and 210 pounds. What's also impressive about Wright is how he was a near automatic finisher in the red zone regularly for Tennessee, especially in 2022. Wright runs with a good center of gravity as well, as while he regularly creates yards after the contact, averaging 4.35 yards after contact in 2023 with 592 yards of his 1,013 coming after contact. So a little over half. I'm also positive Mike McDaniel put on the film, saw all of that plus some, and proceeded to watch Jaylen Wright in pass protection, and his mind was made up. He wanted him as he may already be the best pass blocker in the Dolphins running back room, as I was thoroughly impressed with a little dash of surprise with how good he was at it. That's not even the most underrated part of his game, though, as I saw a guy who can create, he can create when given the opportunity in the passing game. Problem is, he only saw 34 targets at Tennessee in 3 years. He turned those into 30 catches for 171 yards, though. The glaring issue Wright needs to get right is his ball protection, as he had 5 fumbles during his time in college, 4 in 2022 and 1 in 2023, so he cleaned it up a bit. Wright can tend to play with an inconsistent pad level, sometimes playing too high, making him susceptible to being stopped in his tracks by the defender going low quite easily on him. He needs to trust his ability to work inside a bit more. Sometimes you see the gap open, and when he should hit it with his top end burst, he'd rather bounce it outside and out angle a pursuing defender when there was no need to make it more difficult on yourself. I think scouts would have been higher on his ability as a receiver if he had more expanded route tree than what Tennessee offered, and most of his yardage didn't come off swing passes. But I see a kid who will, if you get into open space with the ball through the ground or the air, big things can happen for your offense. So refining his route running ability, expanding his route tree will be essential for his growth as well. He's more effective running north-south than east-west at times because of his somewhat average agility and movement laterally. He's not an overly bearing, powerful back, though. Given his size and frame, I do expect him to bulk up a bit in his first few years in the NFL to improve his functional strength. If their draft position didn't make it obvious to the average Dolphins fan, Devon Achane and Jaylen Wright are the 1-2 punch future of the Miami Dolphins running back room. Wright will continue to improve in pass pro after putting strong reps on film in 2023, which should lead to opportunities early in the Dolphins season and often if they sustain injuries like they have the past 2 years, which could be dangerous for a guy like Raheem Mostert and his position on the team, who he has no guaranteed money next year, right? That's the fact. There is just no guaranteed money left for a guy like Raheem Mostert. So, and I'll tell you right now, if the backfield work is there for Jaylen Wright, I truly believe he has the talent, situation, and the environment where the zone attack is as perfect as a fit as possible at the professional level for a guy like his potential to be realized and for his talents to be utilized to the fullest as he displays the required discipline and patience to follow his lead blockers, while he's even said and he looks most comfortable fitting in this type of offense and working to the outside. Quite simply, the Miami Dolphins moved up in an unprecedented fashion during the Chris Grier era with him as general manager to get themselves a stud back and the potential final puzzle piece to completing Mike McDaniel's 3-headed monster in the backfield to pair with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane in 2024. All right. So big things for him this season. I think Jaylen Wright's going to make an impact right away. So let's get into the final prospect profile, that being Malik Washington. Now, Miami's next slot specialist before Odell Beckham was added to the roster. It was clear before the 2024 NFL draft that the Miami Dolphins needed to add another receiving threat to their wide receiver corps. At pick number 184 in the 6th round of the draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Malik Washington out of Virginia. And not only was he this widely regarded as one of the biggest steals of the draft, it was also viewed as one of the best late round picks any team made. After having a stellar 2021 and 2022 at Northwestern, Malik transferred to Virginia, where he was named to the All-ACC team and also led the ACC in receiving. Washington also posted single-season receiving yards at Virginia in his only year there, with the most receptions by a Virginia receiver in a single season, 110, as well as the most receiving yards in a single season by a Virginia wideout, 1,426. His 9 receiving touchdowns in 2023 were the 4th most by a Virginia wide receiver in a single season as well. The most impressive thing about these accolades is he did it all despite very subpar quarterback play. He's just the type of player where you get him the ball and he'll make chicken salad out of chicken, S-H-I-T, which should have us all salivating and excited over the possibilities of what he may create with an elite quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa when it comes to throwing his guys into open space. What's also impressive is during his only season with the Virginia Cavaliers, he was also named team captain, so there's a leadership side to him as well. When you watch the All-22 from Northwestern to his time at Virginia, it's immediately evident that Malik Washington is a definition of a playmaker, giving me Steve Smith Sr. vibes at times, to be completely honest with you. Malik Washington runs a 4.47 40, accelerates well, has high-end short area bursts, but also knows how to gear down and then gear back up with no wasted movement or motions, allowing him to leave defenders in the dust. He's a really sharp route runner, even if his tree could use some expansion, stems his routes very well, and shows explosiveness in and out of his breaks. Washington has fantastic contact balance to his game and is super elusive. This all allows him to regularly create after the catch by either shedding tackle attempts from defenders or by making them flat out miss in space. Washington tracks the ball very well. After all, he had to with the level of QB play he had in college, and he displays great ball skills at the catch point with a pretty good radius for his size, while his body control is also, at a very high level. What will be a breath of fresh air for Dolphin fans is his hands, as they are as sure and as reliable as a set of mitts can be, and examples are literally all over his film from Northwestern to Virginia. It's also impressive that despite his size, he's also a very willing blocker on film, whether he was tasked with getting his hands dirty or not. He's just a high effort and octane player that leaves it all on the field every down he plays. He also has experience as a returner, and with his athleticism, explosiveness, and field vision mixed together, this may be an area he can contribute to for the Miami Dolphins. Washington's biggest detriment on film is clearly his size. He's 5'8", 192, and 9 1/8 inch hands, though I must say he regularly outplays his size and his hands, though small as they are, very sure things they are also when you watch the film, like I said earlier. With his size comes questionable functional strength. Earlier I said he's a willing blocker, but he will need more than will in the NFL. Now, he consistently showed a good release package off of the line of scrimmage, but at this level where the players are just overall stronger, faster, more athletic, and just better, it will be interesting to see how he handles getting off jams, if he's easy to reroute, etc. All of that said, Malik Washington seems like he may be primarily a slot at the next level, and unless it's a screen or a release off of a motion, he may not offer a ton on the boundary, especially as he starts getting his feet wet at the next level. Now, could that change over the next few years? Sure, but in year one, I think the majority of his offensive work comes off the slot or off screens, motions from the outside. A big thing most will point out as well is he only really had 1 year of true production, but like I said earlier, go watch the QB play he had to deal with at Northwestern, and it was absolutely mind-numbing and frustrating to watch as a fan. Imagine how it was for him as a player. In Malik Washington's rookie season with the Miami Dolphins, I kind of gave away already how I see him used, mainly from the slot. The Miami Dolphins pretty much knew they had OBJ in the bag heading into the draft, so I think they made this pick with him on the roster in mind. Yes, Tyreek and Waddle can line up inside as the F receiver as well, and most certainly will, but I think Malik also allows the Miami Dolphins the convenience of having a fresh three-man rotation at the X and Y receiver spots with top-end receivers like OBJ, Tyreek, and Waddle, of course. I think Malik's arrival may impact Braxton Berrios too. Now, does Malik offer the same special teams upside as Braxton? No, I don't believe so, as he really only has 1 year of experience returning kicks. He had 13 kick returns for 274 yards in 2023, but didn't return a single punt. Needless to say, he's just not experienced enough yet. That is him getting his feet wet and eventually contributing on the outside down the road. I could see him being groomed for a special teams role too, just because he's the type of playmaker you want to get the ball in the hands of. That right there is why I think he'll not only stick but make an impact in year one, because he's the type of bona fide playmaker I think Tua will love. Gets open in the short to intermediate area and works his butt off. All of the rumors the Miami Dolphins were linked to a guy like Xavier Worthy, who I said from day one would be far too rich for them given his size and skill set relative to where he'd have to be drafted. The Miami Dolphins held firm, didn't draft Xavier Worthy, and ended up drafting a guy into their offense who can do a lot of the same things Worthy can, and I think he just his ceiling is just as high. But again, it was a much more reasonable draft position and a much more responsible use of draft picks to take Malik where they took him. All right. So I'm excited to see these three players add to this offense in 2023. I think Jaylen, Wright, and Malik Washington will be far bigger contributors than Patrick Paul. Now, injuries could happen, and that could change the trajectory of Patrick Paul in year one. But if people stay healthy for the most part, I think Patrick Paul is the one that sees the red shirt year out of the three of those guys. Guys, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new. I appreciate y'all coming through and watching some of this. I hope you enjoyed the prospect previews, the preview of the offense heading into training camp. I want to thank everyone for the donations. These are the type of videos where, a lot of work goes into them, from clipping footage to putting the footage together to writing out my write-ups for all of you guys. So, if you can donate, I appreciate it. And I thank all of you who have donated today. If you can't donate, do me the smallest favor. Smash the like button. If you are new, subscribe. And let's get this rolling so people can see this footage of the players and hear about our offense. Next week, we will be previewing the defense and Mo Kamara and Chop Robinson prospect profiles. In that, I may do Patrick McMorris. I don't know. We'll see. And then this weekend, I will be live with Brittany and Jennifer. Go subscribe to the Sideline Tee, as well as Neil, for Dolphins After Dark on Sunday. Next week, Tyler Dunn of Go Long TD will be on to discuss the article he dropped today about David Long Jr. I'm working. I should have Jordan Schultz on the show next week, as well as Fin Too Deep and Finish Line should return. So a ton of content coming your way. Smash that like button, and as always, go Fins all day, every day. See y'all in the next one. Take it easy, guys and gals.